This is Travel Tuesdays. Every Tuesday, we present you with another incredible country. Today, we're looking at 15 things you didn't know about Guatemala. Welcome to Alux.com, the place where future billionaires come to get informed. Hello, Aluxers, and welcome back to another video created by our team here at Alux.com. Does the Mayan civilization ring a bell? Because where we're going today was once ruled by that great civilization. We're talking about Guatemala. Full of mystery and with a rich history behind it, Guatemala is a country in Central America with over 15 million citizens, including 60% of people with indigenous roots. One of the most well-known things about Guatemala is its ancient past of the Aztec and Mayan civilizations. The official language is Spanish, due to Spanish influences from the past, but there's also 22 approved Mayan languages. Guatemala is one of the most diverse countries in Central America and offers landscapes and experiences that have captured travelers all over the world. The name Guatemala means the land of trees, thanks to the vast natural diversification of lakes, beaches, rivers, volcanoes, and jungles. Despite the natural beauty and heritage, Guatemala has experienced instability and civil wars since the 19th century, all of this leading to poverty and inequality issues the country is still facing. If you're new here, welcome. Be sure to subscribe and follow us on Instagram at Alux. But let's dig in and find out more about this impressive country, shall we? Here are 15 things you didn't know about Guatemala. Number 1. The country changed its capital twice due to volcanic eruptions. Due to its location between the Caribbean Sea and the Pacific Ocean, Guatemala is marked by a diverse set of natural disasters, such as hurricanes, earthquakes, and volcanic eruptions. Guatemala has 36 volcanoes, 4 of them which are still active, with Fuego and Pacaya erupting just 8 years ago back in 2010. The country's capital is now called Ciudad de Guatemala, that translates to City of Guatemala, but over time it had multiple names and locations. After moving the country's capital from what we now know as Ixmiché due to rising attacks, Guatemala had to move it again in 1541 because of a volcanic eruption that destroyed the new capital city. The volcano mudflow in 1541 and the earthquake in 1773 were the cause of 2 movements of the capital city. Number 2. There's a river in Guatemala named the Sweet River. The Sweet River, or Dulce Rio, begins at the point where it flows out of Lake Izabal. As a part of the Department of Izabal, the Sweet River is a very well-known sailboat cruising spot, also being part of a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Right at the entry to the river, there's a small Spanish colonial fort, a strategic point that was used back in the day to stop pirates from entering the lake. Measuring 42 kilometers, Rio Dulce is one of the greatest waterways in Central America, capturing the attention of many tourists, and we definitely recommend you check it out while visiting Guatemala. Number 3. The New Adventures of Tarzan movie from 1935 was shot in Guatemala. The New Adventures of Tarzan is a film series from 1935, with 12 chapters having Bruce Bennett as the leading actor. Critics claim this version to be the most authentic one, thanks to the accurate representation of Tarzan following closely with the original Edgar Rice Burroughs novels, but also due to the landscapes it was shot in. The funny story behind this is that Tarzan was filmed in Guatemala for the main reason that it would cost less, thanks to the movie director's relations to the country. The movie, however, was far away from being low cost, since Guatemala had no motion picture industry, so the crew had to carry all of the equipment with them everywhere they went. The movie was also not as successful as expected in the United States, but everybody outside of the country loved it, resulting in a second feature film released in 1938. Number 4. Guatemala is one of the world's largest coffee exporters. The production of coffee has a long history in Guatemala, beginning in 1850, but only during the 20th and 21st centuries did Guatemala reach climax and become one of the biggest producers of coffee in Central America. The early production was held back by a lack of suitable technology and knowledge, poverty, hunger, and unequal land distribution over the indigenous populations, who are present even to this day. Guatemala exports up to 200,000 tons of coffee every year and comes in as the 10th country to export coffee beans. However, sadly, the coffee economy still has poor labor relations. Landowners are still intimidated by the bigger players and evicted from their homes, while seasonal influxes of migrant workers means lower salaries for all locals. Number 5. Mario Lopez Estrada is Guatemala's first billionaire with a net worth of $1 billion. In a country where most of the rich people inherit their fortunes, to declare that you have made $1 billion by yourself is, for many, hard to believe. This was the case for Mario Lopez Estrada, the first man from Central America who appeared on Forbes' World's Billionaires list under the mention of the first billionaire of Guatemala. Mario Lopez started off by working in the Guatemala City Hall, then moved to work for the government. He went on to found Constructora Maya, an independent construction company, and at the moment, he's president of the biggest mobile phone service provider in Guatemala, Tigo Guatemala, which has more than 8 million users. Number 6. No trains have run in Guatemala since 2007. The Railway of Guatemala has a very genuine progress, if we dare to say that. Over the years, construction was started, then stopped, then started again, and was acquired by the United Fruit Corporation. A few years later, lost and taken in by the state. The foundation of the first railway was launched for the first time back in 1890 and concluded only in 1904. The line continued to run until 1996, when due to bad conditions of the tracks, it was shut down. In 1997, a concession was given to RDC, or Railroad Development Corporation, to restore the railway. In 1999, they reinstated the traffic, but in 2007, the government withdrew the concession and all operations were closed because RDC registered too many losses due to the government actions, which is why since 2007, no trains have run in Guatemala. Number 7. They have a territorial conflict with Belize. For more than 170 years, Guatemala has a public territorial dispute with Belize, the territory of Belize being claimed by Guatemala since 1821. A long time ago, Belize was a part of Guatemala, but it was colonized by the Brits under the name of the British Honduras in 1859. Britain guaranteed they would build highways in return, but it never actually happened. On April 15th, the people of Guatemala voted yes in the matter of taking the dissension between the two countries to the International Court of Justice. Following the result, Belize is now obligated to take the same measures and hold their own national referendum, so this matter is settled once and for all. Number 8. In 2010, an enormous hole opened up in the middle of the ground, swallowing a 3-story building. As a result of multiple volcanic eruptions, some regions in Guatemala are made from pumice-fill, a very light and porous volcanic rock formed when a gas-rich froth of glassy lava solidifies rapidly that accumulates in the ground during past eruptions. Back in 2010, an area of 65 feet across fell 300 feet deep into the ground, swallowing up a 3-story factory. The Guatemala sinkhole opened up because of a combination of factors, from a tropical storm, the Pacaya volcanic eruption, and the leaking pipes under the building left unfixed for far too long. According to specialists, it's very possible that sinkholes like this will appear more and more in the future if Guatemalan governments don't inspect the city's sewer systems for malfunctions. Number 9. They have the highest illiteracy rate in Central America. Guatemala has a population of almost 15 million citizens, with a median age of 20 years old, and it's one of the youngest countries in the Western Hemisphere. However, at the same time, it also has the lowest rate of literacy, with only 75% of teens over the age of 15 having access to education. The past 4 decades of civil war marked the country and brought its people at the verge of extreme poverty. As if it wasn't enough, racism and gender discrimination bring biases to the cultural and social environments. One of the particular reasons of the high illiteracy rate is the lack of free public education. In Guatemala, the basic needs for keeping a child in school exceed a month's salary. Number 10. Luis von Ahn, who invented CAPTCHA and Duolingo, is from Guatemala. Of German and Guatemalan descent, Luis von Ahn was born on the 19th of August, 1978 in Guatemala City, where he was raised by two physician parents who also owned a candy factory. Luis graduated from the American School of Guatemala back in 1996, and in 2000, he received his BS in mathematics from Duke University. Due to his devotion to education, Luis co-founded Duolingo, a popular language learning platform that gives people the chance to learn foreign languages for free. He didn't stop there, though, and he also became the co-inventor of CAPTCHAs, those weird letters you have to type in sometimes in order to prove that you're not a robot. The company was sold to Google in 2009 for an undisclosed amount. Speaking of Google, have you seen our 15 things you didn't know about Google video yet? Make sure you don't miss out by clicking in the top right corner. Number 11. They have a history of corrupt presidents, with some behind bars. Sadly, the entire Central American region is still haunted by corruption and poverty, and Guatemala is no exception. The country has a record of corrupt politicians and presidents. On the 13th of February 2018, a former president of Guatemala was arrested for embezzlement and fraud. In 2007, Colom had won the presidential election in Guatemala, becoming the first left-wing president in more than 50 years. Unfortunately, Colom was not the first leader arrested in Guatemala. In fact, Jimmy Morales, ongoing president, was investigated for illegal campaign financing by the CICIG prosecutor, which Morales wanted to expel in order to close the investigation. Also, Otto Perez, former president before Morales, is now behind bars awaiting trial. Number 12. Guatemala is very poor and has a high crime rate. Many citizens of Guatemala survive with less than $2 a day, and the rate of poverty is still very high. Due to poor economic conditions, this is the perfect place for criminal organizations to thrive. The high crime rate appears to be driven by narco-trafficking activity, gang-related violence, a poor judicial system, and heavily armed populations. Tourists need to avoid the areas known for drug trafficking and the dangerous neighborhoods like Zone 3, 6, 18, and 21 in Guatemala City, as well as traveling by bus or staying out after dark. If the Guatemalan government and law enforcement would become more trustworthy, the situation would improve drastically and tourism would be able to blossom to sustain the already damaged economy. Number 13. Guatemala is one of the biggest jade producers in the world. It is well known that Guatemala is the land of the Mayan civilization, for which jade stones had enormous spiritual and religious importance. The stone had symbolic connotations, being associated with both life and death, its green color being correlated with water and vegetation. Many scientists have looked for the source of the jade and currently found it in the wilds of Guatemala, a mountainous region spread with enormous jade stone and signs of ancient mining. People love jade because of the variety of colors it comes in and the rarity it is to find. In fact, back in ancient times, people valued jade more than gold. Number 14. Blue denim comes from Guatemala. Although it's said that Spanish people were the ones who brought denim into Guatemala, there is anthropological evidence that the Mayans used indigo to create the pigment named Mayan blue, a color that appears on their pottery, murals, or archaeological remains from the 1500s. The plant that gives the color grows in Guatemala and was exported since 1760, being a part of the economy elite. In 1700, Guatemala was the main exporter of indigo, but those exports were shattered with the invention of synthetic dyes. Now, natural indigo seems to return to its past glory because of health problems raised by synthetic dyes, presenting big opportunities for Guatemala's economy. Number 15. They were the first ones to discover chocolate during the Mayan era. Cacao had a very special place in Mayan culture, not only for its flavor but for its health properties as well. The Mayans worshipped the cacao tree, and it was used to boost their energy for vitality and even as an aphrodisiac. The birthplace of chocolate is the name given to Guatemala, the place where chocolate was once called the food of the gods. As the country's reputation for producing one of the best chocolates in the world has shown some increasing, Antigua has a Choco Museum that is still the main attraction for tourists. And that's all for today, Aluxers. Thanks for sticking with us until the end. This was Guatemala, and we hope it made you curious about the country and sparked an interest in visiting, despite the region's troubles. Now, before you go, we're curious. What's your favorite precious stone to wear? And since you're a true Aluxer and have stuck with us to this point, you get a bonus fact. Number 16. They worship a very interesting god. A complex figure composed of one ancient Mayan god, one part Catholic saint, and one part fraud priest is Maximon, a complex character that is the patron saint of travelers and gamblers in Guatemala. The legend says he was a loved local priest by the name of Simon, who had too much devotion for smoking, drinking, and womanizing in the eyes of the Catholic Church, who renounced him. He is illustrated as a handsome man with a mustache, sometimes dressed with a black suit or like a cowboy with a shotgun at his side. Thank you for spending some time with us, Aluxers. Make sure to like and subscribe so you never miss another video. We also handpicked these videos, which we recommend you watch next. Thank you for being an Aluxer, and we'll see you back tomorrow.